I woke up in complete darkness, disoriented and shivering. The air was thick with an oppressive chill that seemed to seep into my bones. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I realized I was lying on a cold stone floor. Panic clawed at my chest as I tried to remember how I had ended up here. The room was suffocatingly silent, broken only by the faint echoes of dripping water. The walls were adorned with peeling wallpaper, revealing the decay that had consumed this place over the years. I stumbled to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest. With each step, the floor creaked beneath me, creating an eerie symphony that echoed through the desolate asylum. The flickering overhead lights cast long, ominous shadows, distorting the already nightmarish surroundings. As I ventured further, I began to hear distant whispers, barely audible but undeniably there. My pulse quickened and I followed the voices down a narrow corridor, my footsteps echoing loudly in the empty halls. I reached a door that hung partially ajar, its rusted hinges groaning in protest as I pushed it open. The room beyond was a grotesque tableau of horror. Broken, blood-stained beds lined the walls, and on each one lay the twisted remains of what had once been a human being. Limbs were contorted at unnatural angles, and their eyes stared vacantly into nothingness. My stomach churned, and bile rose in my throat as I realized the extent of the gruesome carnage that had occurred here. It was a massacre, a nightmarish descent into madness. I stumbled back, unable to tear my eyes away from the grotesque scene. As I turned to leave, a sudden, bone-chilling whisper echoed in the room, sending a shiver down my spine. "You shouldn't be here," it hissed, and I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. I spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but there was no one there. I was alone with the corpses, trapped in this house of horrors. I wanted to run, to escape this nightmare, but my legs felt like lead. The whispering grew louder, closing in on me from all sides, until it felt like a cacophony of voices, each one more sinister than the last. "You're not alone," they taunted. "We've been waiting for you." Panic consumed me as I stumbled backward, desperate to escape the tormenting voices. My vision blurred, and I tripped over a broken chair, falling to the floor. As I lay there, helpless and terrified, the whispers closed in, drowning out my screams until there was nothing but darkness. I awoke to an excruciating headache, my body racked with pain. My surroundings had changed, and I found myself in a damp, underground chamber. The putrid stench of decay filled the air, and the dim light revealed rows of rusted cages lining the walls. I tried to move, but my limbs felt heavy and unresponsive. Panic surged anew as I realized I was not alone. Figures moved in the shadows, their gaunt faces twisted in malevolent grins. Their eyes gleamed with an unholy hunger as they drew closer, their movements unnatural and disjointed. "We've been waiting for you," one of them hissed, its voice a grotesque mockery of humanity. I struggled to comprehend the horror before me. These were not human. They were something else, something monstrous. With a burst of adrenaline, I managed to break free from my paralysis and scrambled to my feet. My body protested every movement, but I had to escape this nightmare. I stumbled toward a narrow corridor, the grotesque creatures pursuing me with unnerving speed. I had no idea where I was going. I only knew I had to get out of this place. The corridors twisted and turned, a labyrinthine maze of horror. I could hear their sinister laughter echoing in the distance, growing louder with each passing moment. Finally, I burst into a chamber that seemed different from the others. The walls were adorned with crude symbols, and a sinister altar stood at the center. A nauseating sense of dread washed over me, but there was no way back. I had to confront whatever malevolent force had trapped me here. As I approached the altar, a figure stepped out from the shadows. It was taller than the others, its presence oozing malevolence. "You should have never come here," it rasped, its voice sending shivers down my spine. I felt an overwhelming urge to flee, but something compelled me to stay. The figure raised its hand, and the symbols on the walls began to glow with an unholy light. A piercing pain seared through my mind, and I screamed as memories of unspeakable horrors flooded my consciousness. The room spun, and I fell to my knees, helpless before the malevolent force that surrounded me. I knew then that I would never escape this nightmare, that I was destined to be another tortured soul trapped within the accursed walls of this asylum. As the darkness closed in, I whispered my final, despairing plea for release, but there was no mercy in this place. My fate was sealed, and the malevolent presence reveled in its victory. And so, I became one with the horrors that lurked within the asylum, forever lost to the darkness, a cautionary tale of a man who ventured where he should never have tread.